to contend with. That's a lot. Cellists don't have this. Hi, thank you, Karen, for the introduction and for the invitation to be here as a fellow lady who has launched. I'm very excited about this launch of the Valkyrie Ensemble because I've had the pleasure of seeing these women grow throughout their time at Roosevelt University as individuals and now as a team as they start this organization. And I can tell you, from what I've seen in the hallways and classes and performances and just personal conversations, the talent, the humor, the brains, and the ferocity of these women is just striking. Just one example. Alana Spencer, I adore her. She was my former graduate assistant at the Center for Arts Leadership. And as one of her tasks, I asked her to create a presentation on writing nonprofit grants, an introduction to grants and letters of intent. And she created a PowerPoint that on the title slide featured two pictures. One was of Ulysses S. Grant, and the other of course, Hugh Grant. Yes, just one example of the charm of these women and intellect that they but it was a joy, and I will be using it again this year. So watch out, world. That's just one of the members of this ensemble. So we're in for a treat. From my experience as a founder, I know one of the signs that you're meant to take on this huge task of starting an organization is the fact that you can't not do it. There's this gut feeling inside you that says, no one's doing this, I have to. And that's what I saw even early on in Karen, the wonderful artistic director of this organization. She came into every meeting with a plan and with this contagious passion for her ideas. And I knew even if she didn't get the grant she was applying for from my office, this was going to happen anyway. And that's when you know you're meant to do something. Her dedication to exploring what social justice means, how that meaning relates to art and the art form of opera, and then how that art can make impact in the areas of gender equality was very clear. So we were proud to award the Valkyrie Ensemble the Performing Social Justice Seat Grant from Roosevelt University, Chicago College of Performing Arts, and give them a little support so that they could be here today with all of you. But before we go further, I wanted to challenge this idea of social justice. It's a term that you really can't escape. It's everywhere. But social justice is something we need to see in action. It's not just a morality marketing tool that we use to make people buy into the idea that we're woke, right? Maybe you're not, I don't know. And enacting social justice in its real form can take many shapes. But two stand out to me as I think it relates to the launch of a new organization like the Valkyrie Ensemble. One is the creation of space, and the other is sharing of power. First, the creation of space. So in all avenues, and not just art, we have to create spaces that we want to see and not wait for the world to change. In both careers and causes, 21st century artists specifically are required to be proactive in this day and age. I see this with what the Center for Arts Leadership is doing every day. Passivity leads not just to the maintenance of the status quo, but also to the resignation that you have no control over your opportunities, which is false. Rather than passively waiting, these artists here today have chosen to say, no, we're going to create our own space. And thankfully, we see glimmers of change in the industry as well. If we look at the major classical conferences, we see conversations being started that weren't there 5-10 years ago even. The League of American Orchestras, one of the big umbrellas for symphony orchestras throughout the US, has 3 of their 5 big topics on engagement and innovation, equity, diversity, and inclusion, and leadership, people, and culture. Chamber Music America, a conference I was just at last weekend, had their theme, Music, Equity, and Our Future. Their keynote speaker last year was Tommy Z. Coates. And Opera America has their 50th annual conference this May, and they're featuring the themes celebrating progress, creating real belonging, and making change. So while we see strides toward change and a shift in the dialogue, which I'm grateful for, large organizations remain trapped in a struggle to share power. And sharing power can be as large as a shift in your executive leadership or the advisory board, or as small as investing resources in people and causes that need them, a gesture of financial and emotional support. I'm proud to say Roosevelt is an organization that's making strides in that area. 8 years ago, Roosevelt, as one of the big wigs, did that for me. They invested in sharing notes. And now that organization, 8 years old, has gone on to serve almost 30,000 people with the power of live music who otherwise wouldn't have access to it in Chicago hospitals. Roosevelt gave Valkyrie a grant, and their legacy, I'm so excited to say, is just begun. So I say those things to reinforce the idea that when institutions and people make the choice to share power, we see people empowered and social justice in action. And small organizations like the Valkyrie Ensemble are nimble enough to take control of the narrative as they see fit and help start change from the grassroots up. To take action, to lead, to innovate, and to navigate the tricky route of honoring the beautiful parts of our classical traditions, in this case, while challenging the aspects that make us cringe. There are a bunch of those. They can take risks that push boundaries in consideration of structure, access, venue, and even the role of audience and performer. In case you weren't already aware, there are many challenges of starting a nonprofit startup. It's the closest thing I've ever experienced to having a baby. It's a huge commitment that has the potential to bring great joy and beauty to you and those around you when it's delivered and raised with love. And like raising a child, there's so much that needs to happen for it to successfully grow. And a lot of dirty diapers along the way with the learning curves and all that, but growing a startup ensemble takes passion, dedication, sacrifice, and support from all of us. Not just in the beginning, but also in the terrible twos. And if we're all lucky, the angsty teenage years too. So if I can challenge all of us here today to support them to do one thing, it's to listen closely to their mission and to ask, do I believe in this ensemble? Do I believe in this cause? And if you do, consider where you can share your power. Each of you has some kind of power. Whether we can be a megaphone for what they're doing to say, hey, I believe in this, have you heard of this? Visibility is a huge thing for startups, to create awareness, to invest in them so that we can support, and even if it's not financially, what time, treasure, or talent, which of the 3 T's do you have that can help them grow? So that they can enact this important work of creating space for women in opera and in their communities. So thank you to the dear Valkyrie Ensemble for committing to use your beautiful voices for good. Thank you all for being here to support them. And I think I can say safely on behalf of all of us, we are along for the journey to see what you define your future to be, and so excited to be a part of the ride. Thank you.